Vicky. Hey, y'all, it's the WDVX Blue Plate Special live from downtown Knoxville. We're here inside Visit Knoxville, and you can feel free to come join us for some live music today and spoken word. But, you know, if you can't be here with us, know that you can slide on over there to the WDVX Facebook page or our YouTube channel where you can watch it streaming live right now, or you can watch it back later at your convenience. Our guest today hasn't been here in a very, very long time. He resides up in the great state of Alaska. Give a great big welcome to Ken Waldman to the Blue Plate Special.
Thanks, Red. Well, we're going to enter Alaska time right now. I got my friend Nick Horner's going to play a tune that always puts me back to Fairbanks, Alaska. It's called Old Joe Clark. And as he plays that, I'm going to read the first page and a half. Talk about spoken word, the first page and a half of this novel, Now Entering Alaska Time. So start playing that Old Joe Clark. So here we are, Now Entering Alaska Time, Part 1, Potluck. Most of them in the group had been kicking around town for years, friendly, but not what you'd call day-to-day close. Fairbanks was that kind of place. People came and went, you had your own work to do, and the way Zan saw it was if you minded your business and no one else's, you were smart. Smart. That was why folks moved to the interior, to live where people didn't meddle. Either that or they were put in distance from something. Zan came to Alaska after Debbie left him. They married his last year of graduate school in Pullman, class of '83. The next fall in Spokane, where he was teaching history at one of the high schools, Debbie visited Seattle one weekend, ran into an old boyfriend, Nate, and didn't come back. The next June, Zan moved to Alaska. He was 28, had little money, loans out, and no job waiting. But he had this hunch, and that was 6.5 years ago. He never expected to stay so long, but each year it got harder to leave. He knew people, and the place grew on him. Sure, every place can grow on you, but it was different here, strange in its honesty. Fairbanks was powerfully honest. Zan loved the summer days that went on, the sky bigger than Montana and Texas combined. And then there were the winter nights. The winter did it to him, especially when it was 20 or 30 below and the moon was near full or bigger. He'd walk outside into a windless, dry cold that was sharp and clean as new cutlery. The first whiff would be like oxygen 10 oxygen, or the frozen essence of caffeine. Next, before he knew it, the moon was winking, telling him to keep dreaming. He'd keep breathing slow and deep, shut his eyes, then open them, this time to the stars. And the stars would dance for him. Sometimes he got the lights. It was easy to forget that a few minutes without gloves, he'd frostbite his fingers. The town boomed and busted. First gold, then oil. Now it was mostly dreams. You wanted heights? Drive to Talkeetna, charter a plane to the base camp, and climb Denali's 20,000 feet. You wanted land in a log house? Finesse a homestead, borrow tools, and start felling spruce. You wanted your dream job? It was there waiting. What took 10 years elsewhere took 2 in Fairbanks. But if you were down on your luck, if you were escaping to Alaska for the wrong reasons, that is, watch out. Calamity could strike hard and often. Zan had a friend, Jed, a guitar player who arrived in Fairbanks with a new wife, more than $50,000, and a plan for a meatpacking business. The time Zan knew him, Jed's wife left, his dad died, the business venture got tangled in legal problems, his cabin burned, his car was stolen, his chainsaw jumped out of his hands, took a piece of thigh, and nearly castrated him. The last Zan heard, almost a year ago, Jed was nearly broke and arranging to move back to Salt Lake City. Maybe Jed just had incredible bad luck, but Zan would rather think Jed had unfinished business in Utah, and Fairbanks was just seeing that he got back as soon as possible. That's the beginning of this novel called Now Entering Alaska Time. It's something that I didn't have when I was last here 10 years plus ago. And Nick's playing Old Joe Clark. This is a tune that always takes me back to Fairbanks. Once more. There you go, Old Joe Clark, and now we're in Alaska time. I moved to Alaska to go to a graduate school, an MFA in creative writing. I learned there's lots of ways of learning. So Nick Horner right now and I guess, are going to give you a little bit of a banjo lesson. He's going to start playing one called Sandy Boys. And if you're fortunate enough to be here in the studio, you can watch Nick. If you're, I guess, on YouTube or doing the streaming, you can watch Nick, or else you can listen to Nick. You're going to get a banjo lesson. Why don't you start playing that Sandy Boys? You can learn by watching, you can learn by listening, or if you're poetically inclined, you can learn from this poem called Learning Banjo. Right hand scrunched tight into a claw, thumb out like you need a lift. Knock the far first wire with the right forefinger's nail. Knock again, brushing strings. Meaty stub of a thumb following to pick, short near high G. Then you go bump titty, bunt titty. Tick-tock of an old pocket watch going loco. Pull off a fret with your left ring finger, hammering on your blood like rye whiskey, bubbling in a still. You sit yourself outside the front porch to twang the strung long neck drum. You one day frow, fast as fishtails in wild and drunk time. For cross-tuned and wrecked, old time Alaska fiddlers. boy. One more, Nick. Oh, Sandy boy. There you go. Learning banjo.
This is Ken Waldman with us here today on the Blue Plate Special. Has it really been that long? Over 10 years since
It's
you've
been
down here?
about almost 10 years exactly. I was last time I was here publicly, I did something in Maryville, and I came up here, I think on a Thursday or Friday, and that would have been 2015. So
Wow.
it's a decade around this time of year too.
So, a lot is, you just kept on plugging along. I think I read, you're up to, I wrote it down actually. It's you're at 12 CDs now and on the 20th book.
20 books, and I just did a crowdfunding I have publishers, but it's just like with the music thing. You have to buy the CDs or buy the books from people. So I'm going to have 4 more books out this year. I'm going to have 24 books out by this fall total.
So now, this 20th book that you just put out last year is your first novel.
That is true, and there's a whole odyssey in how that happened. I wrote that before all these poetry collections, but it finally got published. It was first published during the pandemic in the country of India, and now there's a North America edition. So it's it came out last year with a publisher in Michigan. So it's my 20th book, but it actually was written the guy, there's a guy, and it's 7 years in his life in Fairbanks, and he's like me, but he is a fiddle player. And then there's a woman, 7 hours in her life in Juneau, and then how they get together and spend time in Nome. And I lived in these places in my 30s, but now in my 60s, the book finally got published. Crazy.
So, why Alaska?
Why Alaska is, I didn't grow up there. I grew up, northeast of here in southeast Pennsylvania, outside Philadelphia. I started playing fiddle in North Carolina in my 20s. Thought I should be writing, and I didn't feel like I was going to write in North Carolina. I wasn't in Knoxville, but I was in a place like Knoxville, around Chapel Hill, North Carolina, college town, and bought a van. Didn't know where I'd ended up. I ended up in Seattle, wrote a story that I'd been wanting to write, and it wasn't very good. Then I wrote another story that was much better, and it simultaneously a new relationship was ending, and I said, I have to go further. And if you're in Seattle, what is further and still in the States is, you can get on the ferry and you can get up to Alaska. And I applied to writing school. I got in, and that was 1985. That was, talk about 10 years ago being here. That's 40 years ago that I moved to Fairbanks.
All right. So Ken is going to be doing a workshop at the Laurel Theater on Saturday afternoon. That's at 2:00. Now, tell us about the workshop.
And the workshop is more than just Ken doing a workshop. There's a fella, I feel blessed to have Nick Horner here playing with me today, who's playing banjo. He's also going to play some guitar. He's going to, I think, show up as a guest on Saturday night, but I have a fella from around here who's going to play some banjo, a guy named Mike Searcy, but also coming from North Carolina, a guy named Adam Tanner, who is highest level fiddle player, mandolin player, guitar. He's been in bands for years. He teaches around the country. He's going to join me, and we're doing kind of a team workshop Saturday afternoon. Team is T-E-A-M, not T-E-E-N, teen, but a team workshop where Adam is highest level mandolin player. He plays fiddle, and anybody who shows up, they will come away with something more than what they've arrived with, no matter what your level is. If you're starting out, I could help you with that, but if you're also really advanced on mandolin or you want to learn another tune or two, we'd both be available for that. So that's the workshop on Saturday afternoon.
And if people are listening in and they think, oh, I would like to attend, jubileearts.org. You can find more information there for the Laurel Theater.
Sure.
KenWaldman.com as well. And there's merch available at the merch table over here. Feel free to shake and howdy with our guests after the show. But for now, we're going to get a few more tunes here today from Ken Waldman on the WDVX Blue Plate Special.
God, we had you enter in Alaska time. Let's see, we got a little bit more than we still got some time for this before that sponsors time, I think. So I'll tell you what, why don't we keep playing that banjo, and I'm going to play one. We're going to have a little bit of a miracle coming up right now, and the miracle will be explained. Nick says, what is he talking about? I'm going to play a tune called Greasy Coat, and Nick will join in as he will, and there'll be a miracle at some point with this. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't wear no greasy coat. I don't spit, I don't chew, I don't go with the girls who do. I was just thinking, Red asked me, why Alaska? And I am proof that anybody can do anything if you get to Alaska. It's more than double the size of Texas, but less than 750,000 people. When I moved to Alaska 40 years ago, could barely play the fiddle and had never written a poem in my life, and 10 years later, I was Alaska's fiddling poet going around. I wanted to teach writing in a prison. Within a month, I was teaching writing in a prison in Fairbanks. I wanted to have a radio show. To get on like WDVX, it's going to take a while. But within 6 months, I had a once-a-month show throughout the interior of Alaska. I said there'd be a miracle. You just heard me sing. When I grew up outside Philadelphia, there was a choir in our elementary school. They put me in the speaking choir, which meant I was told as an 8 or 9-year-old I could not sing. Fast forward to my early 20s, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, I waited tables at a kind of restaurant people would go to for their birthdays. The staff would sing happy birthday. I was banned from singing happy birthday. You're gonna ruin the tips. Go cut desserts. But in Alaska, once again, proof that anybody can do anything. You just heard me singing on the Blue Plate Special. I may sing again a little bit with this tune. Once more on the top. I don't drink and I don't smoke and I don't wear no greasy coat. And I don't wink and I don't joke and I don't pet no billy goat. Once more. There you go, a miracle. Singing on stage.
It's Ken Waldman with us here today on the Blue Plate Special. I just need to mention the WDVX Blue Plate Special is presented by Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria on Jackson Avenue in Knoxville's Old City. It is home of the Big Plate on Fridays, and coming up tomorrow on the Big Plate, the Merlin's Nest will be with us. Additional support comes from Visit Knoxville. Support for WDVX also comes from the Big Ears Festival, returning March 27th through the 30th with Waxahachie, Julian Baker and Torres, Bella Fleck, Sam Bush, Edgar Meyer, Wyatt Ellis, Irish Wizards, Lancome, and more. Over 200 concerts in 15 venues in 4 days, plus films, exhibitions, panels, and surprises. Single day and 4-day weekend passes available at bigearsfestival.org. Ken Waldman with us here today on the Blue Plate Special. As we were talking about a minute ago, he and the other gentleman,
Mr. Nick Horner.
No, not Nick. I know Nick, joining you for the workshop.
Oh, Mr. Adam Tanner.
Adam Tanner will be hosting old time.
It'll be whatever anybody needs to go to the next step further. It's going to be very inclusive. Anybody who fiddle or mandolin in any level will be leaving there further along.
So, and then there's a concert later that evening?
Concert that evening where it'll be me, Adam, Mike Searcy from Dandridge, and then if Nick is there, we're gonna have him come up and play, and we may have another special guest or two. What I like to think of as fun, inspiration, surprises. Okay. So kind of like Big Ears but earlier in the month, it'll be the beginning of March, right? March 1st.
All right, so I'm gonna back out of the way. We're gonna get a few more tunes here today from Ken Waldman on the Blue Plate Special.
Yeah, we've been playing traditional tunes. We're going to play a waltz I made up called the Fairbanks Cabin Waltz. There's a little bit of a story with this, and I'll start playing it. And it's for everybody who likes a party, or who's ever been a late bloomer in their life. So the Fairbanks Cabin Waltz. Give Mr. Nick Horner a hand for learning this original waltz of mine. And the story with this is that when I moved to Fairbanks, which it still remains one of my, I go all over the place, and Fairbanks is a favorite place. If you know your Alaska geography and Alaska culture, it's the second biggest city. It's in the interior of the state, north of the Alaska Range, second biggest city. I was in the mid-'80s, 5 miles from downtown, 5 miles from the college, and living in the woods in a cabin with no running water. 2025, 40 years later, you can still be 5 miles from downtown, 5 miles from the college, and in the woods in a cabin with no running water. A great place to write, great place to work on playing fiddle. And when I lived in Fairbanks in graduate school, at the end of every semester, there was a party. My undergraduate days in North Carolina, I didn't go to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. I was 10 miles away. I was a business major at Duke University, and I became the Alaskan fiddlin' poet. But before I became the fiddlin' poet like that, grad school, parties at the end of the semester, they didn't do that at Duke. And I promised myself, just like at University of Alaska Fairbanks, if I ever taught writing in a college setting, we would always have a party. So I finished up in Fairbanks 1985 to 1988. I lived in our state capital, Juneau, which is not like the capital of Tennessee, Nashville. You can only get to our capital by boat or plane. It's a different kind of place. I spent a year there. I spent a year in Sitka, Alaska, on Baranof Island. And then in the early 90s, I taught in Nome, Alaska, on the Bering Sea coast. I taught college over telephone, which was actually really good practice for a pandemic. But I didn't know that at the time. But I promised myself, remember, that I would always have a party. So this is a poem called Class Party Nome. It's about having a party over the telephone. There were 14 people, 8 sites, the semester's final meeting. From the Nome classroom, I called attendance, kicked off festivities by picking Irish jig, a reel, New England hornpipe on mandolin. 2 young women, exchange students from Magadan, warbled folk songs in Russian. Next to three guys from prison acted the courtroom drama they'd scripted. It was called Appeal to God. From the village of Wales, Vince blew his harmonica, strummed guitar, sang Woody Guthrie. From the Unalakleet Baptist Church, Loretta played Bach. From Koyuk, Polly told the story her grandfather told on his deathbed, and so on, till Tammy from Nome counted 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Asked everybody everywhere to reach for the cookies she'd mailed late last week and munch. It's probably Huey from jail who hammed the comic smacking noises. And I closed by fiddling the waltz in D I'd written for those who had dropped, who had earlier dismissed themselves. So we had quite the party over the phone, and one brilliant student. It was a talent show, and she baked cookies. That was her talent, and mailed them ahead of time. It would be as if from Knoxville, folks in Maryville and Oak Ridge, and up in Greenville and down in Chattanooga, and all the way across in Dandridge, where Mike Searcy lives, all were on the phone at the same time eating cookies. She mailed them ahead of time. That was her talent. I'm going to play this waltz a time or two. Once more. Fairbanks Cabin Waltz. Now, in the spirit of that class party, which was a talent show, Nick Horner's, he can do stuff on his own, so I want him to do something on his own here. He took the time to come here today. Nick Horner.
As time draws near, my dearest dear, when you and I must part, how little you know of the grief and woe in my poor aching heart. 'Tis but I suffer for your sake. Believe me, dear, it's true. I wish that you were staying here, or I was going with you. would surely turn to white if ever I prove false to you. The day would turn to night. The day would turn to night, my love. The elements would mourn if ever I prove false to you. The seas would rage and burn. And when you're on some distant shore, think of your absent friend. And when the wind blows high and near, a line to me pray send. And when the wind blows high and near, pray send your love to me, that I may know by your hand that time has gone with thee.
We got one more. Who's the Cluck Old Hen?
It's Ken Waldman and Nick Horner with us here today on the Blue Plate Special. Hey, they've got one last tune. Ken's got some merch available over there. And again, to the people listening in Saturday, 2 o'clock, the Laurel Theater banjo and fiddle workshop.
Mando and fiddle. not
Mandolin and fiddle, sorry. They're the same but different. One has a bow,
Yeah,
one
that's
doesn't
right.
have a
The
bow.
banjo player would be disappointed. Adam does a lot of stuff, but he doesn't play banjo.
So the concert's later that evening, probably 7 o'clock
Yeah, what is it, 7:30 or 8,
Seven.
whatever.
At the
usual
Laurel
time.
Theater.
I think it's 8 to 10 maybe is what it is.
jubileearts.org for more information. Tomorrow, it's the Big Plate live from Barley's. The Merlin's Nest will be with us tomorrow, so make some plans and join us again for another Blue Plate special. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Will you leave us with the last one?
Yeah, this is the fiddle tune that changed my life. And for anybody who's thinking of coming by, if they like the little bit of Alaska, there will be much more Alaska on Saturday night. I do a little teaser. This is the fiddle tune that changed my life. There's only a short little bit of this story, but it'll be longer on Saturday. But here's the tune called Cluck Old Hen. Cluck, cluck, cluck. 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 And my old hen's a good old hen. She lays eggs for the Knoxville men. And it's sometimes a one, and it's sometimes a two, and sometimes enough for the whole darn crew. Cluck, cluck, cluck. And my old hen's a good old hen, also lays eggs for the Knoxville women. Sometimes a one, and sometimes a two, and sometimes enough. Hold on, crew. Cluck, cluck, cluck. And my old hen's a good old hen, also lays eggs for the Knoxville children. Sometimes one, sometimes two, sometimes three, and sometimes four, sometimes five, sometimes six, sometimes seven, and sometimes eight, sometimes nine, and sometimes 10. That's enough for the Knoxville children. The longer version of the story will be Saturday night, but 29 years ago, let's see, the end of February, I was 3 weeks into a 5-week tour in rural Alaska. I was no longer a college professor. I was starting to be the fiddlin' poet. I had a week in Teller, Alaska and Brevig Mission, Alaska. By playing this tune, singing this song, it kind of changed my life, so I knew that I could go anywhere and do anything. It's why me and Adam Tanner are doing a workshop on Saturday. It's why me and Adam Tanner and Mike Searcy, and I think Nick Horner will be by, will be playing on Saturday night. It's why next Tuesday I'm going to be at Elon University. It's why this past week I was in Montreal, Canada, playing with some amazing people. All because of this tune. I thought I could go anywhere and do anything, but I was partially mistaken, because what I couldn't do on March 1st, 1996, I guess it was, 29 years ago, March 1st, I couldn't leave the village I was in, Brevig Mission. And March 2nd, I couldn't leave until a plane landed that was a cargo flight. And I got on that plane, and that plane didn't make it to Nome. I am, March 2nd, which will be Sunday, will be my 29th anniversary of surviving a plane crash. I don't have a March 2nd gig this year, so I will be doing Saturday night, and a little bit today, I will do a short plane crash, a light plane crash poem called Nome Celebrity. 2 years writing, teaching, and fiddling, and sharing all I could. I was known in Nome maybe as one of the crazies who rode a bike winter long. Then I walked from a plane crash. Old timers I didn't think knew me now greet me by name. I saw how others watched and whispered, and I let drunks touch me for luck. I feel very lucky to have had another 29 plus years. Well, I think 29 will be on Sunday, and I will have plus years, and all for having survived a plane crash. More to that story, but this is Cluck Old Hen. I want to thank Red Hickey. I want to thank you all. I want to thank Justin and everybody doing sound, everybody at this wonderful radio station, and Mr. Nick Horner, who took some time off from his teaching today and doing some other tasks here in Knoxville. Also, I got to thank Mr. Sean McCullough, who I've never met, but he's the one who set us up. So that was, I got to thank Sean on this too. But here is Cluck Old Hen. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Cluck, cluck, cluck. And my old hen's a good old hen. She lays eggs for the Knoxville men. And sometimes a one and sometimes a two. Sometimes enough for the hold on crew. My old hen, she clucks a lot. Next time she clucks, she'll cluck in the pot. Last time. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Thank you.
That's Ken Walden. Thank you. And join us again next time for more real live music on the Blue Plate Special.